Hi, my name is Justin Loria, and today we're going to be going over all the essential equipment and knowledge that you need in order to have an enjoyable, and most importantly, an injury-free first day of skateboarding. Hey man, wait, what about the intro?
Well, maybe if you'd ask nicely.
Okay, now listen here, that is strike 2. You're lucky to even have a job here at all, buddy. Alright, so now the biggest area where most people are going to have a misunderstanding or make the wrong choice has to do with the equipment that they're buying for skateboarding. If you're buying equipment for a very young child, say ages 5 and under, pretty much anything you get is going to work just fine, but as the skateboarder gets older, it becomes more and more important that they have proper skateboarding equipment available to them, not only for their safety, but also so that the gear will actually work and make the sport fun enough to want to come back to and try over and over again. You'll notice this theme come up a lot in skateboarding, so if you want to develop a habit of persistence with things in your everyday life, learning how to skateboard is going to help teach you exactly that. Alright, so let's start our discussion on equipment by talking about the most essential component, the skateboard itself. Now, the three main types of boards are long boards, penny boards, and popsicle shaped boards like this one. The first two, long boards and penny boards, are intended to be used solely for transportation, so while it is possible to do tricks with those, you're going to have a lot tougher time doing them than if you had a board that looks like this. If you do decide to get a skateboard that looks like this one, you might be tempted to start out with a cheap look-alike version that you can get from a department store like Target or Walmart, but if you're even the least bit serious about getting into the sport of skateboarding, I would highly recommend against doing that. For the most part, the components on skateboards from places like that are built so that they're either completely unusable or that they're going to break on you during the first few times that you use them. In my opinion, trying out skateboarding on one of those is only going to serve to discourage you from thinking that skateboarding is any fun or even possible to do, and the experience that you get from learning on one of those isn't even going to really carry over that much once you decide to finally get a real one. If you're worried about coming up with enough money for the initial investment, just know that you can get a pretty good beginner skateboard for around $60 US. I'll leave a few links for you to some good choices in the description section below. When you go to pick out your first skateboard, probably the most important factor that you're going to want to consider is the size of it. Skateboards generally vary in size from 7.5 to 8.5 inches in width, and the skateboards at the lower end of that spectrum are going to be more appropriate for skaters with smaller shoe sizes and vice versa. For a video that covers how to pick out the exact right size skateboard for you and all the rest of the components, you can watch my video on that topic by clicking the annotation up here. Now, the second piece of equipment that you're going to want to take into consideration is making sure that you get a good pair of shoes that are suitable for skateboarding. Now, before I get into this topic, first I want to make it very clear that you should not be riding a skateboard barefoot or with just your sandals or flip-flops on. It's very dangerous, and my friend actually broke her foot doing that, so stay away from that. So you definitely want to wear closed-toed shoes, but even regular sneakers can be a hugely poor choice for skateboarding if you have the wrong ones. So take these shoes for example. Now, these shoes might look athletic enough, but they're specifically designed for running, so the material up here on top is going to be extremely thin, which is going to allow your foot to kind of swim back and forth on top of the sole, which is really bad for skateboarding. And since it's so thin, if you at all rub this material on the top of the board where the grip tape is, which is essentially just sandpaper, it's going to instantly wear a hole in the shoe right there. So I would say that these shoes are a really poor choice for skateboarding. What I would instead suggest that you do is to go to your local skate shop or go online and buy a pair of shoes that are specifically designed for skateboarding. Shoes like this are going to protect your foot better, they're going to last a lot longer, and they're also going to be made out of a rubber that is going to interact with the grip tape in a way that gives you a lot more grip, which you need to be able to ride properly and do tricks. Now, hopefully you're already aware of this, but skateboarding is a sport where the participants expect to fall down on a regular basis, so not only should you prepare yourself for that, you should be going into this with the intent of learning how to fall down safely as quickly as you possibly can. Don't take falling down as a sign that you're not cut out for the sport, it just means that you're working on something new that you're not very comfortable with yet. My biggest tips for falling properly are to never land on your arm with your elbow fully locked. That's what emergency room nurses call a foosh, F-O-O-S-H, falling on outstretched hand, because it's so common that people injure themselves in that way that they have an acronym for that. So don't do that. Make sure you have your elbow bent, and then whenever you can, try to tuck your arms and your head into your body and roll away from the fall to reduce the total amount of impact you're going to experience during that slam. Now, when you're first starting out, it is pretty much essential that you wear protective gear, most importantly a helmet, but some knee and elbow pads and wrist guards can also help out a lot as well. Now, the very first time you step on a skateboard, I would highly recommend putting the wheels on something that's going to prevent them from rolling too quickly. So if you have carpet, that works really well. Maybe some turf or short grass will work well. I have like this kind of gravelly area. So when you step on the skateboard, just practice seeing how the trucks respond to when you lean on your toes and when you lean on your heels, and try to get a feel for having your back foot behind the back wheels. And what happens whenever you want to pivot, you kind of put your weight all on your back foot and just quickly pick it up and move it that way, so you can do it the other way as well. So just kind of get a feel for doing that, and then once you get comfortable with that, after maybe about 5 or 10 minutes of that, then I would say go ahead and try it on concrete. Until you're feeling very comfortable standing and riding slowly on a skateboard, it's always a good idea to have someone stand or walk next to you so they can help catch you whenever you start to fall. So one last piece of equipment you're going to want to have with you at the skate park is a skate tool. The screws and the nuts that are on your skateboard have a tendency to come loose on you while you're riding, so having the right tools available to you to fix whatever the issue is and get back to riding is going to be really useful. Now, another element that new skaters often take for granted is the type of concrete you're going to be skateboarding on. If you're a newer skater and you start out practicing on the road near your house or on the sidewalk, and the construction of that concrete is a little bit rough, you're going to have a much harder time learning how to ride and balance on a skateboard than if you were on a somewhat smoother surface like what you'd find at a skate park. So the best thing you can do for your first few skate sessions is just to get in the car, drive to the skate park, put on a helmet and some pads, and then from there on you should be good to go. Now, keep in mind as you're just learning how to stand on the board and balance on it when the board is stationary, that if you want to take one of your feet off, always start off by taking your back foot off first and then take off your front foot. If you have your weight in between the wheels, the board's going to basically sit still. But if you have all your weight on the outside of the wheels, like this, the board's going to kick up. And if you're not very coordinated at skateboarding and you're not sure how to fall yet, sometimes what can happen is you're standing on it like this and you go to take your front foot off, and then the board will shoot out from underneath you, and then you can basically fall backwards and hit your head. For some pointers on how you should position your feet when you first start learning how to skateboard, as well as some tips on how to ride, turn, and stop, again, you can watch the video that I made on that topic by clicking the annotation link up here. As you progress in skateboarding, you're going to see that the sport does require a lot of patience and persistence in order to learn new tricks, but I can tell you from repeated experience that the feeling of accomplishment that you get from doing so is absolutely going to pay off. It is more than worth the effort that you put in, so just remember to stick with it, keep pushing towards your goals, and you're going to end up having a heck of a lot of fun along the way. Alright guys, so for more advice on skateboarding, including in-depth trick tutorials, product reviews, and motivational videos, make sure and subscribe to my channel because there's a lot more where this came from. And lastly, as always, never stop improving.